We've seen pictures and video of him for months. Today, for the first time, we heard Jeffrey Willis's voice. The man accused of killing 2 women in Muskegon County took the stand in his own defense, telling the jury he did not kill Rebekah Bletsch.
We have team coverage tonight. Heather Walker will show us the key moments from Willis's testimony, and Brady Gillum will explain why the defense called Willis to the stand. We'll start with Heather, live in Muskegon, with some of the key moments from the most pivotal day yet of this trial. Heather.
Well, Brian and Sue, I did not expect to see Jeffrey Willis take the stand, and every minute of it was so interesting. For the first time, we heard his defense for the evidence against him.
Say your name for the record.
Jeffrey Thomas Willis.
Willis took the stand and looked directly at the jury while he spoke.
I imagine that you've been waiting a long time to tell your story.
I have.
First, the issue of the P22 Walther handgun that police say is a murder weapon. It was registered to Willis's coworker. She testified it was stolen along with her underwear. Willis testified today that he bought the gun from her and the underwear was given to him. And he says the gun already had the serial number shaved off, contrary to what the registered owner said. The prosecution pointed out that Willis's other gun he owned was registered to him.
For some reason, you didn't register that P22 when you bought it.
From what I understand, you didn't have to register it after 2013.
So you think you didn't have to register that handgun?
That's what my understanding was.
He was questioned about the folder labeled Vicks.
Well, I don't trust the police. They're human, they make mistakes just like everybody else.
Willis says when cops started questioning him, he created it to prove his innocence.
Because if they came back, I wanted to make sure that I had everything in order for them.
Willis also created a subfolder for a phone record.
So in 2014, you're squirreling away this phone record.
Well,
for a murder you didn't commit, right?
it would be to just like the police officers when they.
That's it,
Yes.
That's a yes or no question.
Prosecution also asked about that list of names of serial killers and also that list of items that were in that lockbox along with Willis's alibi. We'll have more from that coming up at 6 and a possible slip up on the stand from Jeffrey Willis. Sue?
Heather, there's no doubt today's testimony was absolutely fascinating. So where do we stand now? What's next in the trial?
So tomorrow the prosecution will call someone to testify to rebuttal what Jeffrey Willis says. And it may be more than one person. And then after that, it's in the jury's hands.
Okay. Heather Walker, thanks for that live report tonight. We'll continue to follow this case.
Obviously, calling a defendant to testify in his own defense, always a risky move. And we want to bring in 24-Hour News 8's Brady Gillum, who has worked before as both a prosecutor and a defense attorney. Brady, like all of us, you've been watching this case closely. Talk about that move today. Willis, he seemed very prepared to take the stand. Was this really a risky move? Is it a Hail Mary?
I don't think it's a Hail Mary, and here's why. A jury, they've been instructed from the very beginning in this case that the defendant, or Mr. Willis in this case, does not have to testify. He doesn't have to testify in his own defense, and they can't hold it against him. So when a defendant decides to testify, there's almost this psychological effect where the jury kind of leans in and they really want to hear what the defendant has to say. In my experience as a prosecutor and a defense attorney, after talking to juries, after either an acquittal or a guilty verdict, they always say, man, we wish we could have heard from the defendant. Even though we're not supposed to hold it against him, we wish we could have heard. So I don't think it was a Hail Mary. I think it was a smart move.
Brady, Willis has been in custody for 18 months now. He seemed very prepared to get on the stand today, no quavering in his voice or anything like that. What kind of preparation do you think went in today, and do you think the prosecution was caught off guard?
First of all, I don't think the prosecution was caught off guard. And to answer your first question, a lot of preparation goes into this. I don't think this was a last-minute decision. The decision might have been last minute, but the preparation certainly wasn't. You go over testimony with your client for a long time, and you spend hours preparing your client to testify. Not only do you present questions to him that he will ask on direct examination, but you will pretend that you are the prosecutor cross-examining him. So I'm sure he was very well prepared for this.
And Brady, you've been on both sides, as we said. Talk about the risks for putting him on the stand.
Well, the obvious risks are that it opens him up to cross-examination, and also it presents possibly facts that were not admissible. If he says something, he could open the door to new evidence that the defense fought to keep out, and that's always a risk. Now, I do want to point out one other thing. A lot of people think that when a defendant takes the stand, that a defense attorney is somehow coming up with a story or telling a lie, and I want to say a defense attorney cannot elicit perjury. And what I mean by that is if Mr. Willis, behind closed doors, told his defense attorneys, look, I did it, I'm guilty, then the defense attorney cannot present the defendant in court and ask him questions that he knows would perjure himself. If that were to happen, the defense attorney could be guilty himself, or he could be brought up on ethics charges before the state bar. It's very interesting.
It is. Brady Gillum, always great to tap into your expertise. Thank you for that analysis tonight. And coming up on the 7 on 8, you will hear the extended testimony from Willis on the stand. And when that trial resumes tomorrow, you'll be able to listen again live to the audio. You can find that at woodtv.com.